Hello and welcome. My name is Ashley Chapman, founder of Justice U and Engage Together, and your host for this special conversation on how the business community is uniquely positioned to help end and prevent human trafficking. This topic is one of great importance in my heart and mind because you must understand human trafficking is a business in the very worst sense of the word. Human trafficking is the sale of human beings for forced labor, sexual exploitation, and organs. Traffickers, according to the World Economic Forum, are making collectively more than $150 billion per year off the sale of human beings. And trafficking has now been identified, its presence in all 50 states throughout the US and in every nation around the world. Now, for too long, the burden of combating this growing global crime has rested nearly entirely on the shoulders of government and community actors. And from personal experience, traveling the world over and in communities all across the US, helping communities rally who are struggling to combat human trafficking, I can tell you the missing person at that table every time is the business community. That is until a few years ago when we launched the Freedom Council, an assembly of global companies and business leaders dedicated to this cause. And tonight, you get to hear from a founding member of that council, Bob Meier of NASCO. Bob is a dear friend and a warrior advocate on this issue. And tonight, you're going to get to hear his personal journey into this entire effort, his advocacy efforts, and his professional insights into how you can catalyze your business to join the cause and make an impact. Before we get started, though, a couple of housekeeping items. First, this session is recorded, and you'll receive that recording on the other side of this event. Second, if you have a question tonight during this session, something comes to your mind that you wanted to ask, use the Q&A icon on your computer or your smartphone, and you can shoot that question our way. Our team will get that to us, and we'll do our best to integrate your questions throughout this evening's conversation. Also keep an eye on the chat feature, which is where we'll be sharing with you web links and resources and organizations that we're talking about this evening that you might want to take a look at. Lastly, there's no possible way in the time that we have today that we can share everything you need to know about business engagement, the responsibility and the opportunities for your company, your business, you as a business professional singularly, to make amazing impact in this fight. But we have a ton of resources available to you. And to share more about that, I would like to invite Alana Flora, co-founder and director of Engage Together, to share more.
Thanks, Ashley. For anyone who's not familiar with Engage Together already, we exist to come alongside individuals and organizations, providing the insights, the ideas, the tools, the resources, and of course, the knowledge that they need to be able to engage in their local communities to make an impact. We create resources such as toolkits, quick start guides, our blogs, and so much more based on the conversations that we're having in the field. We're connecting with thousands of justice advocates. We are working with partners across the United States that are organizations, that are programs, that are businesses that are practically engaging in their communities. And we're asking them, what is working for you? Where have you hit challenges? Where are there trends and where are there changes? What innovative ways have you been able to engage in your community? And of course, what resources do they know about that we can then share with everyone else? And so we put these resources together so that when you say, how as a business can I put the National Human Trafficking Hotline in our restrooms or in our business? How can I, as a business traveler, understand what to look for if I'm renting a car and driving and I'm stopping at a gas station to get gas? What can I look for? We want to be able to direct you to those resources so that you don't have to do the research on your own. You don't have to vet and figure out what you need to do. We've got it specifically. So whether you are a business owner or whether you are a teacher or a parent, we've got those resources for you because we want to be committed to you on your journey from awareness to action. We want to give you the knowledge that you need to increase your learning and then increase your impact. And that's why we're so excited for tonight to be able to talk to Bob. Bob, both personally and professionally, has engaged in really innovative ways, looking at the skills and the talents that he had and to say, okay, how can this come alongside the needs of the community and the needs of the anti-trafficking movement? So everyone is in for a real treat tonight.
Thank you so much, Alana. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our special guest for this conversation on how businesses can engage, Bob Meier. Bob, welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the wonderful introduction. And I want to thank everyone that's here joining us tonight, and also those that might tune in after. Congratulations. That's step one in trying to solve anything. And of course, trying to solve this big problem in human trafficking is almost an epidemic. And it takes a lot of people that want to be the change they want to see in the world. So I'm honored to be here, and hopefully I could share a little bit of wisdom. A little bit of background on me is I was thinking about, like, how did I get engaged? How did I get involved? And um, it's kind of like the gym membership that we all have. It's like step one is just walking in the door and saying, I'm here. And that was kind of my awareness to this issue, and I'll get to that in a minute. But as I became a parent, I have 4 kids. I started finding that no one was doing the things that were needed in the community, whether that was being the football coach, things that I'm not even qualified for, right? Like, do I look like a football player? No, not clearly not. But I was a football coach for 6 years. I've been a tennis captain. I've been the president of my HOA. Um, Instead of working towards, like, why is this happening, complaining about it, I've kind of patterned my life around just taking action and saying, how can I help? And we'll probably talk a little bit later about how, I think it's that marriage of heart and mind. Like, you could have a good heart, but where's your mind at, and what skills can you bring to the table? And we'll talk about ways to get engaged with that. But my entry point was I started joining other boards. People said, hey, I think you can help with this. And one of the boards that I joined, I was the vice president for a local action here in our county in Georgia, which was called Family Haven. So that was a shelter for abused women and children. And I just felt really passionate about that cause. It wasn't something I was even aware of was in our community, but I was asked to help them, and got engaged that way. And then from a company perspective at NASCO, um, because I'm in marketing, I'm not always engaged in, like, leadership activities, but I was aware that Ashley was and a group were coming to town and meeting at Chick-fil-A's headquarters. And my company got involved because one of our business partners was Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. And actually, Tom Miller being kind of the founding board member for AFRJ, we were kind of supporting him. So it was kind of like, hey, come and join this, check this out. And probably a group of 20 or so individuals from our company went, and I was kind of behind the scenes helping with arrangements and marketing materials, but I wasn't there. I wasn't in the meeting. And it wasn't until later we hosted something at our facility at NASCO in Atlanta. And there I had an opportunity to ask our leadership team, can I sit in? Can I sit in on this and learn a little bit more? And that's when I got to meet some of these dynamic people, including Ashley and Elena and others that are passionate about this, and become aware of what's happening out there. And the statistics, which I'm sure they'll share, are just mind-numbing, right? Like, once you get engaged and you hear about what kind of problem this is. And we'll talk more probably in the Q&A about how we got engaged as a company and how I got engaged. But I kind of jumped in the deep end of the pool. I was like, well, I can help you with fundraising. I can help you with events. I can help you with marketing. And Ashley is like, okay, let's do that. So,
That's right.
and little things along the way. I have a technology background as well. So we helped out with things like business shops, like setting up a Shopify kind of experience for what's called the Freedom Business Alliance. But there's so many ways to get engaged. But, for me, we all need outlets outside of our day-to-day job. And I have a saying that goes, as light as a feather. Like, I think about the things that I'm doing, and if it feels heavy, I got to question my commitment. But if it feels light, I stick with it. And I have to say, I think I've been working with you all for 5 years, that it feels light as a feather. It feels like I'm doing good in the world, and the actions that we're all taking together. But it is a community. And I'm, like I said, super thrilled that we have participants that want to engage. And so that's step one. And then step two, after awareness, is what are you going to do about it? And
Yeah. Well, and let's dive into that. But, for those who are listening in and maybe human trafficking is new, if it's new to you, if you don't feel like you yet have the awareness you need, this session, we're not going to spend a lot of time on that because we really want to dive into what can business do to engage. But we have a 1 hour course available to you. It's on our Justice U, which is our Justice University. You can earn a digital badge in 1 hour on human trafficking awareness. It will introduce you to this global issue and also the indicators that you're going to want to look for in your local community. And that is absolutely step one, just becoming aware of yourself and also doing it in a way. And I love what you said, Bob, just seeing yourself as part of the solution. So it's not, I think human trafficking is such a dark and complex and can seem such a heavy issue because we don't understand it and we feel like we can't make a difference. So we tend to close our eyes and shut our ears. But the fact is, there's so much that needs to be done to help combat human trafficking. And don't let that be an overwhelming thought. Look at it as an opportunity, and especially the business community. So Bob, what steps did you take to start, just increasing your awareness and really move from that stance of awareness to action?
Yeah, I think the one thing that's fascinating to me, I don't know that I have a term for this, but I kind of call it broken leg syndrome, because when I had a broken leg and when I was in a cast, you start to notice other people around you that are in a cast like you. And you're like, wow, but I never noticed those people before. And it's the same thing with human trafficking and awareness. It wasn't until I engaged with AFRJ and the Freedom Council that I began to realize and see articles in the news. And it's crazy that, sure, Atlanta is a hub for human trafficking. I don't live in Atlanta, though. I live, 30 miles north of Atlanta. And in the suburban communities and even in the rural areas, not a month goes by that I don't, get a news break alert that says, 30 people were rescued for this, 50 people were rescued for that, or there's a house in Atlanta where, men are going in there and women are being held against their will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing that there's so much there. So, for me, it was finding, again, the marketing, the events. I'm more of a people person. So connecting with others and trying to get them engaged and to help, that was kind of what got me the stickiness of where I could help. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of opportunities for the folks here that, I think myself and everyone else can help to find that connection of what's your skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're passionate about this, we can do this together. I really
That's
do believe
right.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, I know. And when I talk to a lot of companies, or even when I talk to nonprofits, or community actors about company, business engagement, everybody's mind rushes immediately to financing, right? Financial resources. And absolutely, this is needed. It's desperately needed. But there's so much more. There's so much more opportunity. And what you just said, Bob, about matching your skill sets as a business professional to meet the needs directly, line of sight from your skill set to that need has been just such a blessing to us. It's been a blessing to others. You've helped many other freedom businesses, groups that are working to combat human trafficking, to hire survivors. Would you mind just sharing a couple of those examples about ways that your company and you personally have been engaged?
Sure. On the Freedom Business Council side, well, actually, are you talking about the freedom businesses themselves?
Sure. Yeah, we
Okay,
can
I'll
start there.
start there. Yeah, so with the freedom businesses and their alliance, we helped from the perspective of a very simple activity. Was from a marketing perspective, I was and my company was buying promotional items, let's say for conferences and events. And we would buy those, whatever, just your regular, like a conference bag or a t-shirt. And we found that we could work with the Freedom Business Council, and I mean the alliances across international borders, and they would make the products for us, and they weren't that much more expensive, but we got quality products and we were able to give those away to our customers. And think about that. I mean, just the experience, the emotional connection to where did this come from. And we even had, at our galas, we've had those products available too. It could be something as simple as a bracelet, right? But you understand where that came from and you're helping that cause. So one simple campaign that we did was with a freedom business in Jacksonville, Florida called Rethread It. And we did a t-shirt collection for them over the summer. So it was for our associates, just bring in your old t-shirts that you're not wearing anymore and put those in a bin. We sent those to Rethread It. They got close to about 300 pounds of t-shirts. Well, you would think, well, that was easy. That was an easy lift. That helped keep 12 survivors employed over the summer that otherwise may not have had work. So to see the fruits of our labor, so to speak, that when our associates found out, like, wow, we had that kind of impact, I had no idea. But there are so many simple things just like that where companies can be engaged. I know we've also had you speak at our employee meetings. So instead of, just, okay, we're going to go through goal number 1, objective number 2, here's a new product, but to have someone raise awareness within your company is an amazing thing too. And you have all the, like you mentioned, all the tools to do that, and the people. And that's more important, is having that personal connection with, I'm not just watching, a PowerPoint or, a video. Somebody is live and in person speaking to our group.
Yeah, and I remember, joining your company at that quarterly meeting, and one of the outcomes, there were many, but one of the outcomes was a woman who was sitting in that meeting. And as we walked through the indicators about human trafficking, and especially how traffickers were soliciting and grooming individuals online, especially kids and youth, she realized that's exactly what was happening to a family member that was close to her. And we were able to work together to get that intervened and to get that individual who was about to be a perpetrator for a young girl caught. So yeah, there's so many layers of things that can happen when the business community begins to get engaged. Alana, for those who are listening in who don't know what a freedom business is at all, that's a new term for them. Would you mind explaining the importance of freedom businesses, ways businesses can engage, and just really that whole nexus between business and reintegrative efforts?
So freedom businesses are businesses that employ survivors of human trafficking or those who are at risk. And that's offering them a fair living wage job. And a lot of times it can be a career path for many of these individuals. And so it's teaching them a skill. It's teaching them whether that is coding and whether that is technology or whether that is jewelry making or it is some other type of fashion industry expertise, so that way they are gainfully employed and they're no longer vulnerable to a trafficker who may come and lure them away with another job because they're not able to provide for themselves or their families. So we're giving them employment opportunities, and the Freedom Business Alliance is made up of over 30 businesses that are operating in 9 countries. So it's a pretty global opportunity for these survivors and those that are at risk. And there are a lot of ways that businesses can come alongside these survivor-made goods and products. So exactly as Bob said, they were able to buy products that were given out at conferences. Perhaps you have a raffle or a gala. Perhaps you have just some of the products that are in your own office that you're able to put up artwork, or those are Christmas cards or gift baskets that you include. And so they're just opportunities for you to come alongside survivors and those who are at risk to continue to gainfully employ them.
Thank you, Alana. Yes, and we had a special session event that we hosted at the holiday season with Freedom Businesses. So I'll ask our team to put in the link to that, because if you're curious about how to support Freedom Businesses year round, especially right now, in this time of a global pandemic, which greatly impacted freedom businesses globally. I just encourage you to listen in on that and get to know those businesses and start to support them. So Bob, what if we can't get leadership to, we've talked about this before, right, with our council, and sometimes as a business professional, you're starting to become aware, you want to move to action, you want your company to jump completely on board, and you run into some reluctance there for different reasons. Could you help our listeners understand how to navigate those conversations or those issues, and even how to make a difference in the meantime?
Yeah, I don't want to say go renegade, but even for myself, I think our CEO and president, at the gala where I received the award for working with you, and my boss, so to speak, said, I didn't realize you were doing all these things. So, part of it is finding those connections, right? And it's finding the right connection. It doesn't have to be the president of your company. It could be your marketing person, right? Like myself, where I've got social media folks working for me, and I could say, hey, could you post this? Could you reshare this? There's very simple things you could do. Sure, there's the all in, we're going to, be on the Freedom Council, and we're going to supply technology and resources. But I think, getting individuals involved, and then even within your company, it could be your peer group, right? Where you could still get involved, but maybe your company's not providing the funding necessary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, there's just so many ways. Alana, what if one of the questions that's coming to us is, what about a small business in a small town? You know, what is it that they can do or should be thinking about doing in relation to combating human trafficking?
Well, small businesses, one thing they can do is they can look at posting the National Human Trafficking Hotline number in a visible place. Maybe that's a bathroom or in the front of their business windows so that people know what to be able to call if they recognize someone. They can certainly train their employees on indicators. A lot of times, traffickers are moving victims from city to city, from town to town. So it's very possible that a victim could be coming through your business. So being able to have the information readily available, train your employees, and then come alongside those who are vulnerable in your community, because it's quite possible that they're being trafficked and they're an unidentified population. So when we learn how foster care or refugees or domestic violence victims are also impacted, that can be a way that small businesses can look to integrate.
Thank you. Yeah. And one of the questions coming is, what about supply chains? So understand there's a lot of work that's being done, and supply chains are critical. If you Google kind of companies and supply chains related to human trafficking, you're going to pull up a ton of articles about companies right now that are actually in hot water because they are not committed to making sure their supply chains are free from forced labor, from child slavery. So there are great resources for this to understand. And what I want to make sure you know, those who are listening in, you know, one of the outcomes of this gathering that Bob and NASCO, you know, helped put together way back when at Chick-fil-A headquarters, and we're so thankful for Chick-fil-A hosting that. Their sweet tea got me through law school, so it got me through that day too. But the outcome of that was a business toolkit. So we created a comprehensive business toolkit about all the things that a business needs to consider, from how to prevent trafficking, how to identify trafficking, how to help with rescue or exit, how to help with restoration efforts, how to help with reforms, and how to lean in all those different ways. And those ideas came from about 250 executives who were allowed us to lock them in a room for 48 hours and just pick their brains for all these different ideas. And then we researched that and we created this massive toolkit for you. And so we'll send the link your way. You're also going to get a quick start guide on the other side of this event as well, just some initial thoughts to think about. And then as Bob shared, just as a personal pledge on your behalf, we have the business pledge to end human trafficking. And that's really, it's a simple pledge, but your whole company can take it too. But it's about getting equipped and getting knowledgeable yourself, raising that awareness with others, and then learning how to take action. So Bob, I know you've done so many different things. What would you suggest might be some first steps for those who are listening in with a business who's not yet gotten engaged on this at all, to consider or to start doing?
Well, one consideration might be training, you know, or like I mentioned, you know, all hands meetings. I mean, taking the you know, kind of baby steps or stair stepping and raising awareness. I would be shocked to see a company, small or large, that, you know, if you had that conversation with your human resources area, that they'd be like, oh no, we don't want to do that, or we don't want to get engaged in that. You know, I was thinking even in terms of things that we do, like in contracts, to, you know, to make sure, like, let's say I'm signing a hotel contract. Well, that could be a hotbed for human trafficking activity as well. I want to make sure that they're committed. So it's not just my commitment and our company's commitment, but it's we want our partners to be committed as well. And I would say that's that's a further step. But with our commitment, you know, we find our partners they want to be part of that too. And in some cases, I found that I might have a business partner who's even more engaged than our company is, and that's great. So I would start with awareness, the material that you mentioned as far as like Justice U and the guidebooks and everything that you have. But once you get into that, I think you're going to start recognizing that, wow, this is a big problem. And then, you know, certainly start with your company getting engaged. But if there's a bigger call to, you know, that you feel compelled to, you know, as you mentioned, we have the Freedom Council, and there's so many things to do there, from India initiatives to technology to communications to folks like me on the events. I would love to have 3 or 4 people help me with, you know, events and fundraising. And it's not work. It really is, you know, fun, creative ideas to get the message out there and to get companies committed. So, you know, that I think it's a twofold path for those that are listening in. If you're made aware and you want to take action, see what you can do. What can you change yourself, regardless of whether that's your company, but do both at the same time, and don't give up. Keep pressing forward, even if your company says, "Well, I don't think we can do that." I think there are like small things you can, like the T-shirt thing that I mentioned. It's so simple. I can't see that, and most companies, small or large, want good press, right? And this is good, so it's a win-win. Really, I look at it.
Yeah.
Getting
Yeah,
companies.
the way forward for business is corporate social responsibility, right? That we all know this in the business community. And depending on what your company is already engaged in, whether it might be supporting domestic, fighting against domestic violence, or supporting families who are hungry, or education initiatives, these are driving vulnerabilities that lead directly to human trafficking in our communities. Alana, how can you help just explain kind of the nexus between vulnerabilities and how companies might be able to really lean in on that and realize that just by leaning in a little bit more, enhancing what they're doing already could really make a significant impact in human trafficking?
Yeah, coming alongside organizations or programs that are already operating in your local area that are serving those vulnerabilities. So perhaps there's an after school program. And I was recently connected with a group that is working with youth who are interested in entrepreneurship, or they're looking at financial literacy. And so a business that can come in and say, this is what entrepreneurship really looks like. This is the path you take. This is the challenges and the successes. That's really helpful, because a lot of times vulnerable populations don't have that vision. They don't have someone to pour back into them. So that's one way, is saying, here's the knowledge, the skills, and the experience that I have, and being able to come alongside those. Perhaps that's another program is offering, similar to what Bob was saying, the donations of specific things. They're growing a garden. And so if you can come alongside and provide some of those seeds or planters or practical ways, because they're teaching these skills to vulnerable populations so that they can be equipped to continue into society without those vulnerabilities.
That's right. Yeah, and there's just so many tangible ways for businesses to get involved. And the question really is, who are you? What are you already doing as a company? And then being able to marry that reality and that strength to a need, a gap in your community, in your industry, in the world. One of my favorite examples of this is one of the companies on our council is Deloitte. And when they opened an innovation lab, and they did that in Atlanta, they asked me to come speak to their people about this issue. And the question came up, what new technology would we want built to help communities combat human trafficking? So I shared an idea that would radically accelerate our ability to impact local communities if we could get them the data insights that they needed to see and be able to visualize that. And they outsourced over 100 technologists to support that very specific new technology tool that we are now rolling out across the United States. So it could be as simple as adopting a program locally, enhancing, your understanding of the nexus between vulnerabilities and trafficking. It could be using your professional skill sets to serve on a board. So many things that are needed. And here's the deal: business has to come to the table. Government and community efforts are perpetually overburdened and under-resourced, and business just isn't in that skin. So they're going to come at this in ways that are going to just spark innovation, spark new ideas, new resources. And that's desperately needed right now, more than ever before. So Bob, I can't believe it, but we're very close to our time today. I hope this is the first of several mini conversations together. But if there's one thing you're hoping people take away as a business leader, a business professional, a company, an individual, what is that one thing you hope that they walk away with today?
I would say continuing the journey, right? Like I mentioned, the gym membership. You took step one. You're here. Be inquisitive, be aware, and take the next step. Where you're comfortable. That could just be, I'm going to start spreading word on social media, or I want to contact Bob more, or I want to talk to Ashley. I want to, you'll know where your heart is, right? Like, you have skills, believe it or not. There's so many business professionals out there. Like, even what Elena mentioned in terms of the freedom businesses, they need help. And they're in baby steps, because they're running an entire organization from supply chain to procurement to development of a product, but they're doing it with survivors. They don't have infrastructure. So even there is a great place to jump in. So yeah, be the change you want to see in the world. That would be my advice.
I love that. Well, you certainly are, Bob. You are that to us. You're making a world of difference, as you know. Alana, where would individuals go who are curious about where do I even start this journey, this learning journey, and where do I go to learn more? And the answer is not go out and Google it, by the way. The answer is, drum roll, Alana, where do they go?
You can go to engagetogether.com/resources, and that is where we are going to have those guides, discussion guides, blogs that are going to break down and unpack the topics that you're looking for and then direct you to those resources. So if your small business says, we'd love to start with fair trade coffee, where can I buy that? Because we want to ensure the coffee that we're drinking is made with sustainable wages, then we're going to direct you exactly where to go. So engagetogether.com/resources will have all of it for you.
Yeah, and to Bob's point, we are available to you. So, and Bob volunteered himself, so I'll volunteer again. Myself, Alana, our whole team are so passionate about helping you as a business enter into this fight in your local community, in your industry, or even globally, if that's how far your company reaches. There is something unique that you can do, and it is desperately needed to make a difference. So, just so thankful that you're taking this first step and listening in. Go get some of those resources, go start that learning journey, reach out to us if you need help. Thank you, Bob, so much for joining us tonight. And thank you to all those who are joining us on the other side.
Take care, everyone.